Welcome to the Three Old Goalies podcast, a Delusion Group podcast. The Three Old Goalies are brought to you by Scora, your digital soccer agent. Please help the Three Old Goalies by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform of choice. The music for the Three Old Goalies is provided by the Floodgate Operators. You can find their music on iTunes and Spotify. As always, the Three Old Goalies are not intended for goalkeepers under the age of 17. Parents, please have your earmuffs on the ready. And now we send you over to the start of the show with the Three Old Goalies.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another edition of Three Old Goalies. Tonight there are pioneers and there are pioneers. And I'm telling you tonight, along the lines of what Three Old Goalies was created for, which is to tell soccer stories, we have truly a pioneer of not only of goalkeeping, but and we always make fun of, our name, Three Old Goalies, but truly we have tonight's guest is an old goalie who, by the way, is still playing goal at the age of 54 years old. Allan Adams. Allan, thanks for joining us. We are looking forward to sharing stories. Again, another guy that we've known for years and years. And thank you for taking the time to be with us.
No, I'm excited to be here. It's cool. I mean, I can go back to, over 30 years ago.
That's right. That's right.
Training with you from 30 years ago, and Boa, who's not here, and Pat Johnston, who's been a visitor before.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
Yeah. So, Greg,
thank you.
Do you know Adam, or do you know Allan?
I do not. I spoke with him last week and sort of prepped him on, as you said at the start of the show, what's the premise of the show to tell stories? And you got to believe he's got some EV, right?
Oh, he's got some stories. He's got some stories, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But not a lot of people know that, back in the day when you were a young goalkeeper, you were either playing in the United States or you're trying to go to Europe. Well, Allan went a different direction. He decided to go to Mexico and play. And sure enough, he played there for, I don't know how many years, but for a long time professionally, which at that time, Bone, was unheard of. I mean, you just didn't hear stuff like that,
Right.
And when I say pioneer, that's exactly what I mean. He did stuff that not many other American goalkeepers have done, number one. Number two, he did it for a long time. So without further ado, let's get into the Allan Adams story, and I'll turn it over to you, Greg, for your interview process. And Allan, feel free to tell us anything that you feel is pertinent, and we'll get this thing going.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, Allan, thank you again. I think EV, it is. He is the first American to play in the Mexican Liga Mix. Can you believe that?
That I believe. Not many people knew that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not a lot of people knew that. I certainly didn't. He played for Tim Carter, as he spoke about a little bit earlier. But he's going to take us through this journey from growing up in Irving, Texas, and how do you end up at Illinois State to start. He had a very, very good career at Illinois State. He was, in 1991, he was the Illinois State Male Athlete of the Year.
Wow.
Yeah. And in 1990, he got, and I'd love to hear, what this means. In 1990, he got the Milt Weisbecker Award that year. And I'm sure he'll expand on what that is and what it represents. So, let's get started. You grew up in Irving, Texas. What was the landscape like there? Dallas is a huge center for youth soccer. very, very competitive. How did you get involved with soccer? What high school did you end up playing at, and what club did you end up playing in? How did you get noticed?
Oh my gosh, it's kind of crazy. So I mean, I kind of jokingly say, as a poor kid from the wrong side of the tracks in Irving, you know, I grew up in South Irving. Uh, there was no club soccer there. I mean, there was nothing, and so this guy named Randy Waldron, who I'm sure everybody knows, he took a liking to me. And said, "Hey, come play for my team in Dallas." And he lived, not far from me in Irving. And so, I went to Irving High School. I'm sorry, Nimitz High School in Irving, in South Irving. And my coach, who happened to be a ex-college teammate of Randy's, a guy named Alex Akashvili, played at Midwestern. They played there together. And so he hooked us up, and so I started playing for Randy, in a small, called Comet Flyers, kind of offshoot of the Comets back in the day. And we were nobodies. It was kind of cool, but Randy was the start of my success. So I played for him in Dallas in the Classic League, and kind of started doing that. And, way even before that. My dad. I started playing soccer at 4. My dad was my coach. I was a forward back then. Most goalkeepers seem to be forwards or center backs. Somewhere you hit somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started playing with my dad at 4. Coached me, rec up until the point probably. Back then we didn't have selected where I grew up, and so probably about 12 I started playing for Arlington, Texas, kind of a secondary league type thing. And then all of a sudden, like I said, my new high school coach, when I was a freshman, he said, "Hey, you need to know this guy named Randy Waldron, who knows." But so Randy took me under his wing, and I went to Dallas and played for Comets. And it kind of just blew up from there. It's great. He hooked me up with the state team. John Costaboom, a lot of guys know nowadays. He was my state team coach. And then I went to play for the Comets. I went to play for the Longhorns. I went back to the Comets. Finished my career with the Comets. So it's an amazing time. So,
How did you get noticed by Illinois State?
It was crazy. So we were playing just our normal league games on Sundays. And Tim Carter from the Man on the Moon. Unfortunately, I was doing really well. Noticed by the state team, so I played for the state team all whenever I was in high school and went to regional camps. I think that's where I met Evie once upon a time. But I think my freshman year I went to regional team camp in South Carolina and did really well, and it just kind of blossomed from there. So each summer, they do the regional team camp, so all of the state teams go and try out for that, and regional team, national team, all that stuff. And so I just, Randy kind of set me up, for success. Every year with Costa would push me forward. And then Horst Bertel at the time, I don't know if you guys know him, but Horst Bertel was the regional team coach for the Region 3 of our region. And he pushed me forward, and so ended up fortunately being able to play for the national team eventually. I never had a cap, unfortunately, because there was a couple of guys there that were, I would say, better than me, but more politically known than me. So it's kind of ended it there. But hey, I went to Carter came down and we were playing a club game one day, and unfortunately, I was very lucky with Evie's help and Randy Waldron's help, and a couple other people's help. but I got recruited by about 7, 8, 10, whatever happened. But my final decision was between West Point, which is crazy. West Point and Illinois State. West Point was, naturally it's a full ride forever. But then you had the backside thing where you have to, do the commitment to the military for 5 years after. Illinois State offered me the full ride part of it. But, I'm like, I'm going to go pro. I don't know how, but I'm going to. So ultimately, I decided to go there. There was a couple of us, a buddy of mine, a guy named Brad McPherson, that, he kind of recruited both of us out of Texas. We were the Texas duo going to college. It was a lot of fun, but, I ended up making 4 years playing college there. It was amazing.
What, at that time, Illinois State had a pretty good program. That region was dominated by SMU and St. Louis at the time. What other schools, you mentioned about 7 or 8 schools, what other schools were in the mix? And did you at that time really want to go that far, either to New York or Illinois, because you were one of those guys like, I'm getting the hell out of, Texas and this is my path?
Yeah, I wanted literally, it's crazy as it sounds. My mom and dad had 3 sisters. I got to get away. I don't know why. I just, just get away and grow up. And that way, and it wasn't anything, I love my parents to death. They're awesome people, great parents. But I knew I had to do something different, to really focus on soccer. So, I got South Carolina, Air Force Academy, oh my gosh, I can't remember nowadays. But yeah, it was amazing, the opportunities, and I look back on it, it's because the drive that this guy named Craig Kinsey had pushed me to, kind of coached me from my sophomore year all the way through, so, but Illinois State, ultimately, whenever I went for my recruiting trip, the culture was right, the opportunity was right. They had a keeper that was a couple years older, so whenever I walked in, he was going to be a junior. But maybe this is arrogant because the way Evie and Pat Johnston trained me. But I looked at him and I'm like, now I can beat this guy. So it was really cool. I get that opportunity over West Point or SMU. SMU I had to sit 2 years. That's kind of what they told me. And and not many goalkeepers like sitting on the bench. So, I'm like, I think I can beat him in 1 year. But, the first year going in, you're not going to replace an incumbent keeper most of the time. So I said, hey, I'm going to go to Illinois State. The culture's great. Looks like a good opportunity. The funny thing is, Illinois State, the first year I went there, we were going off. I inherited we went 18-2 my first year. But the crazy thing, and I was talking to Pat Johnston last night about this, my first year there with Pat as my keeper coach, I had my best shutout record ever. I had .82 goals against average in a just a brutal, getting your butt kicked season. My senior year, whenever I graduated, ranked number 14 in the nation. I think that's like 1.1 or something like that. So it's amazing how, even though you have a losing record, you still have a better shutout record and all that stuff.
Yeah. At that time, when you played, you got to play in the NCAA tournament against SMU. You unfortunately lose that game 2-1 on a bicycle kick. Take us through that season and down this path. It's pretty hard to take when you lose on a bicycle kick.
Yeah, it's the thing that really sucked. We were playing them. At the time they were awesome. They had Larry McFell, Ryan McPherson, or not Brian, same. But they were stacked. They were a great Dallas team, basically. They recruited everybody from Dallas back then, or St. Louis. So I mean, it was the playoff. It was in, at SMU. We were playing there. All my friends and family, they were there for the playoff game. One of the goals that they scored was a penalty kick. The guy that took the kick, I've known for my whole life, and I'm like, I know where you're going. The goalkeeper reads him and you watch him his whole career, you know where he's going. And back then, nobody was smart enough to just put the freaking ball down the middle. You dive one way or the other, whatever. So I knew he always went to my left. The keeper's left, his right. And then sure enough, I dove and he puts a freaking ball down the middle. And that it sucked. But that was kind of the start of it, and then we tied it up and we lose just an amazing goal to finish it off. But when you come from, I went there to make a difference, to make a team, we were ranked probably 777 when it started and we finished 14th, in the nation. So it was really cool to make a difference in the whole career and the whole path of, ISU.
You mentioned, Pat Johnston, who's a friend of Three Old Goalies. What role did he play in your life, not just as a goalkeeper trainer, but as someone to look up to as a mentor?
So Craig Kinsey, who I continue to mention, but Craig and Pat were cohorts on the national team. They're both goalkeepers, both amazing. Played, not played with each other. That sounds stupid, but you know what I mean. Played in the same team together. But Pat was my goalkeeper coach my first year at Illinois State, and so I walk in the first day and I see this guy, and you know how Pat is. Pat got his chest out. Pat's Pat, right? So he's I'm pretty arrogant, but Pat's right there. And so Pat was out there, and he's a pretty boy, and and Tim Carter says, "Hey, this is your goalkeeper coach, Pat Johnston." Who are you? And Pat goes, of course, Pat. He goes, "Oh, I'm Mr. Duke." But okay, I've been there before. So it was just funny. And so Pat literally, I don't know if Tim had told me that hey, you got a decent keeper coming in or whatever, but Pat's goal was to beat the heck out, which he did, and it was amazing. He literally was Craig Kinsey's second generation, or his twin. From my sophomore year to my senior year in high school, if I said a cuss word, Craig made me. He's like 50 push-ups, and man, I'm telling you, if you ever happen to slip and say GD or whatever else, oh my gosh, that was just miserable. And so Pat was kind of a continuation of Craig, which was great. But literally, probably halfway through preseason, because back in the day when you could actually, work people and make them work hard, do 3 a days and all that stuff. Literally, Pat beat the dog out of us. And at the end of the day, I was dumb enough to say, all right, keep it coming. Because for whatever reason, I wanted to, have his knowledge and be better, be the best. So he's today, literally, what? So 20 whatever years later, 30 something years, 32 years later, I still talk to Pat all the time. He comes to Dallas, I meet him, we drink some beers. I still keep up with Pat every day.
What, you mentioned Pat was your goalkeeper coach for 1 year. How long was he there when you were there?
Pat was only at Illinois State for 1 year.
1 year. And
Yeah,
then he moved
unfortunately,
on.
unfortunately, I mean, I don't know what happened. He and Tim had a spat. I don't care. You know, he moved on, went somewhere else. Yeah, and then I inherited a couple other guys, but yeah, it was never the same.
Gotcha. Yeah. So share with us, these, obviously I mentioned about the 1990 Milt Westbacher Male Award. What does that represent?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, they did a. It's actually kind of comical nowadays. So I was fortunate enough. I went to Illinois State full ride, which is really cool. You know, naturally. But I mean, my parents. I mean, I kind of jokingly. I think I told you. I kind of jokingly said I'm a poor kid from South Irving. We were rec soccer and all that stuff. So to be able to go and get a full scholarship and not have to, my parents not have to pay anything or anything. I mean, it's amazing. But so I get this scholarship, it's Bell Athlete of the Year and blah 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 blah. And so they give you, I think it was $150 scholarship, which is great. I mean, it's amazing, right? So you get $150. So what do you do with $150? Not much. I mean, back then it was more than it is now. Within like 6 months later, after I graduate, I'm playing, I don't know where, whatever. I get a letter and they're like, hey, by the way, you owe the university $150. And I'm like, what? Yeah, they're like, well, you were on full scholarship, so you couldn't have any income, so you got to pay that scholarship back. I mean, it's like, what the? Yeah, it's crazy.
That's funny.
So it's great. I mean, it's a great award. It's really cool because I mean, Illinois State soccer was like, I mean, you had soccer and you had basketball, and those were the two kind of better sports. Football was terrible back then. And then all of a sudden, you get the top award for a male athlete. Then, oh, by the way, you get to pay us back because you shouldn't have got that. I'm like, what's the point? Anyway, I get a nice plaque that sits in a drawer, and that was great.
So 1991, your career's over. You want to go pro. Share with us what the landscape is, first of all.
So, I mean, it was crazy. So, I mean, naturally through high school, playing with the state team, playing with the regional team, playing with the national team pool. Back then, I mean, when I was growing up, hopefully Evie will say the same thing. He may say I'm crazy, but whatever. But back then, I mean, if you were in the Northeast or the Northwest, you were the golden, literally the golden children. Tab Ramos, Tony Miola, Casey Keller, these guys were like the cream of the crop. I mean, if you were in the South, if you're in Texas, it was tough. I mean, back then it wasn't, Texas wasn't chosen as much. And so, unfortunately, man, it is what it is, I mean, but, I mean, I just kept pushing through, and doing my thing.
Do you feel, again, back then, what did you know about the Mexican leagues?
Nothing. No, zero. No, I mean, like zero. I mean, seriously, it's amazing. So, I mean, literally, so I had to do like a semester internship, like after I quote unquote graduated. So I had like 4.5 years based on my degree. So I got a deal with a team in San Antonio. Back then, it was a team called San Antonio Generals. And so, crazy enough, the kid who went with me to Illinois State originally, Brad McPherson, he lived down there. And so he got me hooked up with the owner of the team. And so I went down there as the quote-unquote general manager to finish my degree. But also to play keeper for him. So I lived with the manager there. And So I literally walked off the stage, got my diploma, and they're like, and I turned left, and they're like, oh no, if you don't go sit down, you're not going to get your degree or your diploma. And I'm like, hey, I gotta be in Tulsa tomorrow because I have to play in a tournament with the new team I'm playing. And they're like, oh. So I'm like, hey, look, I graduated, I got all my credits. So, I walked off the stage and got in the car with my parents and we drove to Tulsa and I started playing with this team with the San Antonio Juniors. So I didn't know anything about Mexico. I mean, I'm like Mexico. I mean, it's like the 17th, level professionally. I didn't know better back then. So the coach that coached the San Antonio Generals, I met him the next day. Nice guy. Come to find out, he used to coach and play. He only played in second division Mexico, but he coached with several people down there. Excuse me. And so, I had a great season. We ended up losing in the semifinal or something like that. This league, back then, a lot of penalty kicks, shootout type stuff. So I had a great season playing for them there, and all of a sudden out of the blue, he's like, after the season was over, he's like, hey, I want to take you to Mexico. I'm like, what? I'm like, Mexico's, because back then, what, 30 plus years ago, you wouldn't think Mexico was like the best place in the world to go. So I'm like, okay. So I packed my stuff up and here we go. We drove to Mexico. So he took me to Monterrey first. So I trained with Monterrey for 2 weeks. It was a lot of fun, great training, but I just didn't get a good vibe. The coach that was there at the time, just didn't really like hit it off. So I'm like, are we doing this or we not? What's going on? He's like, yeah, I know they want you one more week. I said, look, I've been home for 6 months. I said, I'm going to go home for a week. So I just packed my stuff, drove back to San Antonio. Oh my God, who is that? Holy moly.
There's no escape.
I will never escape my mentor. But anyway.
Pat Johnston joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Pat, thank you so much.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. It's water, but it'll do.
Pat, he was just talking about you. I'll let him refrain from what he was saying. You can hear the podcast later.
I already know.
What we want to know, Pat, is you were there a year, his freshman year. What was your first impression of him? And when you left, what did you think of him?
Be nice.
I don't remember either way. No, I'm just kidding. No, I remember showing up there. I just basically gotten back from England a couple months, and I was in personally not a great place. So I was pretty cynical, and he was the poor guy that would be the first person that I got a hold of after coming back. Evie, you get it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was a cynical bastard, pretty much. Oh, this fucking soccer, this, that, the other, and then on top of it, Allan, we both you lived with Tim Carter for 4 years. I had him for just the one because I only stayed there for the 1 year. So Greg, he was a skinny kid, and as you can see, you can take the boy out of Texas, but you'll never take the Texas out of the boy. He was the same way then. But he was, I'll tell you what, he was keen. Okay. He had that. He was keen and he didn't like it. And he was very clear about it, about things that I would do and make him do. But Allan, you got to admit that I would sit there and do it with you, you know? So,
Amen.
so
Yep.
it was, it was just one of those things where I didn't really think, I didn't think, oh, I got this guy, he's going to go on to do this, that, or the other. I was there. I trained him. You have the special bonds that keepers have. We understand the game, what we go through. It's funny because Evie and I just had a conversation recently about the coach turning and saying, what is he doing out there? And, Evie would always go to Rennie and say, let me ask him, coach, because I don't know right now. I'll ask him. And then, he'd ask me a question. I'd say, leave me alone. And, so Timmy would never really do that. Allan was a good freshman. And, when I left, I really didn't think either way. I was off to a new adventure in the APS or the ASL and, just kept tabs on it and all. And then really the next time I saw Allan, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you came down to Florida to train with me. You had graduated from, you were done with Illinois State. I don't know if you had been to Mexico when you came down or if you were on your way or where you were with it. But, man, he was a lot better. He definitely, he took the things he learned, and I don't know what your trainer situation was after I left, but he definitely became a man from the boy that he was when I got him that first year, his freshman year.
I walked in with Pat, and I was 6'2", 156. I mean, I was skin and bones.
Yeah.
Pat beat the living shit out of me. Excuse my language. I mean, he did. I mean, I like literally. I mean, there were days where I'm like, "F this guy."
Did you guys train on the football field, that turf football field?
We trained on the football field. We trained on the shit field. Like, I can't remember what it's called. Remember all
behind the football field?
No. Over in the by the cow pastures, like where the cows, they inseminated cows and raised cows. No, we trained there. I mean, oh my god, we trained because back then they didn't have an ice field, so we trained anywhere we could. It was god awful.
Pat, what do you remember about the Mexican League at that time?
What do I remember?
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about it. I just knew that it was better than us because really that was a foregone conclusion that anything was better than us because it had a culture, it had a history. We were just still trying to figure it out. And, for me at the time for all of us at the time, but there was nothing there. We hadn't, Greg, you played indoor. That was it,
Yeah.
So, that's why I went over to Europe in the first place. But, getting back to the training of it, Allan, and Evie, you'll crack up at this too. Greg, you'll get it because you live up there in that shit weather. Is anytime this was Illinois in the fall, okay? And anytime it was wet, it was cold. And every time I would say, we're training more today. It's wet. It's a great time to train. Let's go out, And so poor Allan from Texas, I think that was a big part of it was making him go out in the cold and wet and condition him to that because, again, I came back from Newcastle. So, it was like, freaking a duck going back in water for me at that time. But I also knew that there was some acclimating that had to happen no matter what. When you go from this type of climb to that type of climb. And so, and the thing was, Allan, you performed. You performed well in the training like that. So I always saw that as an opportunity, even though you didn't like it. I mean, you liked the wet and it really got you to extend your range,
Yeah. It was good. It was good, but trust me,
I was going to ask you, EV. You trained him for a bit. How did you run into him? And what were the circumstances back then?
Well, I first saw Allan at regional camp, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it was it Fort Worth, Allan, when we had regional camp?
It was.
Yeah. Okay. So
TCU.
yeah, and actually, Tim Carter was, I think, the regional coach at the time. And I could be wrong on that, but he was on the staff. I remember Tim being on the staff. He was, like all coaches, he was everybody's looking for a better goalkeeper. And, but Allan was quick. Allan was willing to work. This, Bone. If you're a goalkeeper coach, that's really all you want. Is somebody who's willing to go out there and do the work, and he was willing to do it. And so as a goalkeeper coach, you look at a kid like that and you go, okay, we can do something here. We can achieve something. We can make this kid better. And that's the fun part of coaching. And it's what Pat was alluding to is, and for those of you who don't know Illinois, about this time in Illinois, it starts getting cold, wet, and the wind never stops blowing.
Oh, it's brutal.
Okay, so you're not only because as Bone, I coached at Sangamon State for 2 years, which is
right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so and the wind, you get into November for playoffs and stuff. You're not really playing soccer. You're battling the elements and hoping that the ball goes in, and whoever battles the elements better, wins. And so, that's an interesting observation by Pat, and it's an important part of it because, you get to that time in the calendar when the games are on the line, you're playing in really, really tough conditions.
Yeah.
And so that was a smart move by Pat Johnston coming back from Newcastle and saying, okay, here's how you do this,
Did you think he was Division I material?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't even hesitate.
Yes.
What made you answer so quick?
What I said, he was quick, he moved well, he had decent hands, and he was willing to work.
Okay.
And again, maybe it's changed. I don't know, but I don't think it has. If you're a goalkeeper and you want to get better, and it was interesting because Allan said it early in the broadcast. He wanted to be a pro, right? That's what you want. You want a kid to train who says out loud, I want to be a pro, right? That's more than half the battle right there as a coach. It's like, okay, good, fine. This is what you got to do,
Right.
Because if he's willing to say it out loud, that means he's willing to accept the guidance you're going to give him, right? And he may not always agree with it, but
He may not like it.
Yeah. He may not always like it, but it's like when you play, no one ever likes the referee. So, you get on with it, And,
no, what's crazy is like my dad's a police officer, right? So West Point fit in with his mentality, and I got appointed to West Point. I got an appointment, boom, full ride, all that stuff. And I said, nah, Dad, I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go to Illinois State. He's like, are you effing kidding me? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go pro. He's like, okay. And seriously, it was from that day forward. I had gone to SMU, sat the bench for a year behind Hank Henry, who was just a wonderful keeper. But end of the day, I kind of took my bet, chose my path, and it worked out. So it was really cool.
So let's get back to so how do you end up signing with Club Santos Laguna?
Oh my God! It was crazy. So
yeah, but and before you tell this story, I want to share some things. So in 1990-91 season, before you get there, they have 6 wins. 14 ties and 18 losses.
Oh, wow.
There's 20 teams. They finished 19th with 26 points.
Yep.
They give up 53 goals. They score 35. And then you're there in 91. And they go 12 wins, 10 draws, 16 losses. They score 42 goals, a little bit better in goals against with 51, but go from 19th to 15th. So first, did you even know any of this when you were signing, like, hey, they are really, really bad?
So, no. The crazy thing is like I said, my quote unquote coach / agent, he's like, hey, because I went to, like I said, I went to Monterey first, or Tigers, whichever one, and I'm like, nah, I'm going home. So the crazy thing is, so I leave, because I had been home for 6 months. So I drive to San Antonio where I was living, pick up my boxer, my dog. Didn't grab any clothes. Whatever I had, I showed them. So I grabbed my dog, went to see my parents. So I think I got home. I think I drove like 20 some odd hours straight, because I've been home forever. So I get home, and I think it was Thursday, something like that. So Friday morning, my quote unquote coach / agent calls me. He's like, hey, I need you in Torreon tomorrow. I'm like, nah. And he's like, no, like, seriously, I need you there tomorrow. Because my buddy, the coach at the team at the time, he's like, we coached together in second division, we played together. He's like, their goalkeeper that they just signed for, I think back then it was like $3 million. He just got hurt. Just something with his ankle. He's out for 9 weeks. They need a keeper. And I'm like, so they only have one keeper? And he's like, no, they have a backup, but he's terrible. So I'm like, okay. So, craziest thing ever. My oldest sister, who we were not close, but she happened to be at my parents' house that day, whatever reason. I told my dad, hey, Mimbo just called me, wants me to be in Torreon tomorrow. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be another, Monterey type thing. And so my sister said, look, you dumbass. She's like, you've been wanting to play pro your whole life. Get your ass on the plane. Go. Because, he told me, he's like, when you walk off the plane, they'll hand you the cash. I'll take it. I'm like, so I like that. Because Mexico back then, you're thinking, is it real? Is it not? Are they going to do this? Are they not? So my sister said, go, stupid. This is your dream. But the problem is, I left my gloves, my shoes, my shorts. I had nothing. I left all of it in San Antonio. So literally, I went to this place called Mr. Soccer. You guys may know from way back when, and bought a pair of shoes, 3 pairs of socks, a couple pairs of shorts, a couple of t-shirts, whatever, and a pair of gloves. Because I'm like, I'll be back in a couple of days, so no big deal. So I flew. Next day, got on the plane, flew down there, stepped off the plane. Some guy, literally, he's like this. He got a sign. He's like, it's comical. You think of it like on some drama or something, some sitcom. He's like, it said Richard Allan Adams, and I'm like, hey, are you here for me? He's like, you're the white guy. So I'm like, let's go. So, but literally hands me an envelope of cash for the plane ticket, and I'm like, hey, this might be all right. So he picked me up, took me to the hotel. Walked in, my agent or my coach, agent, whatever you call him. He was there, and he's like, hey, so we got checked in the hotel, went to my room. All of a sudden, I get a phone call, and he's like, hey, the coach wants to meet you in, half hour, be in the lobby, blah, blah, blah. So, that was kind of the start of it. So, it's just, it's crazy.
Well, you need to finish. You need to finish with the next day and what happened.
Oh my God. So yeah. So I mean the whole thing is still kind of like a dream. I mean, like literally. I mean, I jokingly say this. I'm this poor kid from South Urban. You know, I walk off the plane, they hand you the money for the plane ticket, and I'm in Mexico of all places. You know, you never expect to be there, and like my dream could come true. And so that afternoon, you know, once I check in the hotel, you know, I go to my room, put my stuff up there. We have dinner as a team. Then we have a team meeting.
Alan,
You know,
how much Spanish do you speak at this time?
oh my God, I'm the dumbest white boy in the world. So like, I mean, you know, I mean, I took sixth grade Spanish. So I mean, I know like table and beer. And that's pretty much the only words I know. And at the time, beer was the most important word. So I mean, I know nothing. So I said this meeting, and he's talking blah blah blah. We're gonna do this tomorrow. We're gonna do that. And then he looks at me. He goes, "Don't let any goals in." I'm like, okay. So you know, we all go to bed, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So the next day we get up. I meet with him in the morning, and he goes, "Hey, you're going to play with the reserve team first." I'm like, "Okay, reserve team, like yeah, man, B team, whatever." But hey, I'm down there. I want to do something at least. So I go out, you know, go to the stadium, and it was the craziest thing ever. Walk on the field. He's like, you know, go start. You're gonna get warmed up. You're gonna play. I'm like, okay. So I don't know. It's just me. I go to the middle of the field at every game, and I pick the ball up and make sure it's cool. You know, make sure it's got a good grip, whatever. It's a good ball. I go to the middle of the field, and I pick this ball up, and it's plastic. It's a beautiful Tango Adidas plastic ball. And I'm like, time out. I'm in Mexico. We're supposed to be like professional-ish. And I got a plastic ball to play with. So I'm like, I mean, it was crazy. But I'm like, all right, this is what I got to deal with. So I mean, I put it down with the goal. We started the game. And so, you know, we're playing a couple shots, make some decent saves. You know, I'm not quite as pretty as Pat diving, but you know, I'm good. But anyway, so cross comes across. The one thing Pat did tell me or teach me, probably better than anybody, is to own your box. I mean, like that was my passion. I mean, from my goal line, probably 12 to 16 yards. If stuff was in the air, it's mine. So I mean that's you know. So I mean I go out, boom, catch a ball, and I didn't know. You know how Mexicans nowadays they do this side volley deal. I didn't know how to do that because I'm a stupid white boy. But got across, boom, quick drop kick, got an assist. I mean it's amazing. There was nobody in the stands, but it was amazing. So we're going through the game. We're up 1-0, about 35 minutes into the first half. I get subbed out. I'm like, what the? What? So I walk up the field. I'm like, yeah, I know how to talk to the guy that was, because I mean, the coach was there. There was like an assistant coach. So I'm like, I said, wrong? What's going on? He's like, no, go get a shower. Okay. So I walked past the coach. He actually spoke a little bit. He was go get a shower, see the doctor. So I'm like, okay. So I walk downstairs. I'm like, I don't know why I'm taking a shower. I didn't really sweat much, so I took a shower. Go to see the doctor. So they're doing this massage thing, you know, all this stuff, and all of a sudden I get a shot in my ass. I'm like, what? Something they do. So anyway, just you know, that culture thing, it was crazy.
So they snuck a
So I
tack
get-
of shot in your ass?
They do what?
You didn't know? They just stuck a needle in your ass while you got
Well, yeah, I mean, you're laying there getting a massage. I'm like, boom,
Pants.
it was, like, boom. Yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, anyway, so we, I got dressed, got ready for when I thought I was playing for, start for the first team. Because he's like, oh, you're going to play the first team. So, sitting in the locker room, and I mean, the old stadium for Santos was like a dungeon. I mean, the stadium itself was like all brick, and concrete. The steps the luxury people, the rich people basically had seats. The rest of them had concrete, benches.
terraces.
Going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you had a moat, and you had a fence. It was up,
You guys had a
20,
moat
30.
around the field?
Oh, heck yeah. That was amazing. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. But no, I mean, then, I, did the shower thing, got dressed for the game, and, got ready for, the first team to play. So we went out, warmed up, and, I mean, the keeper that was going to start, I was told, he was the backup, which he was not very good back then. And so I'm like, all right, cool. So, I figured, all right, I'm the stupid, white kid. So, he's not going to start anyway. So they started him. We were down 1-0. First half in, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll play. Maybe I'll just sit here, whatever. So we go back down into the dungeon. He's up. The coach looks at me and he goes, "Go get warmed up. You're gonna play the second half." I'm like, okay. So I go out, get warmed up. Everybody comes back up. Second half starts. And I'm like, well, this is not going how I thought it would be.
How big is the crowd?
It was probably 25,000-30,000. I mean, the stadium was pretty small. Yeah, but for once again, for me,
Oh, just like
I never-
Ohio State.
No, I'm laughing.
exactly.
Yep.
I never played in front of 25,000 people in my whole freaking life.
I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I'm in the ASL playing in front of 3,000, and boom! All of a sudden, you're just thrown in front of 25,000 Mexicans. Rabid atmosphere. Well, anyway, so
What's crazy though is that even in the reserve game, there was probably 10,000 people, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I mean, but anyway, so second half starts. He's still in goal. I'm like, well, F this. I'm like, this is gonna be another Monterey thing. I'll go home tomorrow. 5 minutes in, coach looks at me, he goes, "Go get warmed up, you're going in." We're losing 1-0. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I go down and I do the blah, 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 get warmed up. He actually makes a sub. That was interesting. So keeper comes out, we do this brother-in-law thing. Never met the guy before in my life. I go on the field. Oh my God. I thought I was the devil. I didn't understand the word they were saying, but the amount of beer they were trying to throw at me, it was crazy. Now I understand what they were saying, the words. I mean, they call me some bitch, you stupid white boy, all this stuff. So,
and this is the home fans.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, but you guys know. I mean, think about it. Back then, 1991.
Yeah.
You got a skinny white kid. I mean, I was skinny. I mean, I was 185, but you got a decently built white kid going into goal in Mexico. And back then, I mean, USA keepers, players. I mean, we were not respected. And so, I mean, they called, like I said, oh my gosh, you know, going on the field, you know, they were cussing and screaming and yelling, throwing beer and all this stuff. So that was pretty intense, but a lot of fun. I mean, I'm like, hey, this is my, I mean, I jogged onto the field and I can still remember what I had on. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, everything. And I'm like, this is my chance in life to do what I want to do. And so I kind of ignored all the beer, you know, and I didn't know what they were saying. So just said, I'm gonna do the best I can do. So game starts, you know, we're losing 1-0. My wonderful third string backup, you know, gave up a goal in the first half. We're playing this team called Udahe. They had an amazing Brazilian forward, amazing left foot. Took a couple of shots, made a couple of decent saves. So we're going through the second half, probably, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes left in the half. Ball comes over the top. I go out and get it, you know, across, because I mean, Hispanic Mexican keepers are not real strong in the air. So that's one thing, fortunately, that Craig and Pat taught me. And so I got it. Boom. Once again, I don't know how to do this Mexican side kick, so I just did a nice drop kick. Assist to an assist, we got to go. So we're tied 1-1. Which is cool. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, and then the tide starts to turn a little bit. So they weren't throwing beer, they were just drinking their beer, you know, still cussing at me, but it was cool. So then something happens, I don't remember, but the ball comes over the top. That forward is running through, but the ball kind of beats him. So I got, boom, get one-on-one, get the ball. I mean, literally, he goes, boom, just over the top, but it was clean. But the referee calls PK. And I did Pat Johnston, lost my shit. And I said everything in English, but he looks at me, he goes, I understand what you're saying. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. So PK. And I'm like, all right, well, what I thought was my defining moment in life, you know, and making a difference and going to have an opportunity, I just screwed myself. So this guy, like, he was good. So I'm PK. And all I'm going to tell you is the only other PK I've saved that was as good as this PK I saved was against Roy Lester, which I didn't even know who Roy Lester was at the time I saved it. So I was playing in the tournament in California, and this black guy steps up and hits a PK against me, and I mean, I just, boom, you know, and somebody said, that's Roy Lester. I'm like, I heard that name, but I don't know who he was. But this guy steps up and rips one left. Fortunately, thank God, Dove saved it, so we ended up tying the game 1-1. And literally right there, I mean, it was amazing. Like, I can remember it like it was yesterday. You know, just the whole stadium, like, everything changed. And, you know, we ended up tying 1-1. Great for the team, great for the club, because, I mean, Greg, like you said, I mean, the club was not good. I mean, you know.
So Allan, you gotta go right to your signing. That is the funniest of all of it to me.
Yeah. So all right. So I'll make this quick. So the short part is I walk off the field, go take a shower, come up, go in the stands, see my quote unquote coach agent, and like all the fans all of a sudden from throwing beer at me, they're like my best friends. And they were calling me Spider-Man, and you know, because you're blah blah blah. And so it's really cool. And so I mean, I go from like the stupid white boy from South Irving to you know, this not great guy and all stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, being 21 at the time, I didn't even know how to react. I'm like, you know. So the next day, so we went back, had dinner with my agent and his family. The next day, I wake up, And I expect to wake up and, like my agent memo, he's going to say, well, we'll talk in a few days. He goes, hey, they want to see you at the office at 9. And I'm like, okay. So we go to the corporate office, which was, it was a little bitty shack back then. But anyway, I go in there and they're like, we want to sign you. And of course, I didn't speak Spanish, so I don't know what they were saying. So I looked at Memo, and he's like, they will give you a contract. And I'm like, okay, I want to play. I'm like, I want to play. And they're like, they want to pay you $120,000 a year. And I'm like, that's pretty good. You go from nothing to, and I'm like, ah, cool, sweet. And he's like,
hey, Alan, let me make sure what I heard you say, $140,000?
120 back then.
120.
120.
And
dollars or pesos?
Dollars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But the cool thing, now they make millions, right? But back then, 1991, I'm like, okay. And then he says, oh, and by the way, they want to give you $40,000 sign bonus. I'm like, is that all? What are you saying? And so, yes, I walked out of there with a $40,000 check. And I called my parents from my neighbor's phone where I was living because nobody had there were no cell phones back then. I'm like, Dad, I got a $40,000 check. What do I do? It's amazing. It's crazy.
Well, let me put that in perspective real quick. So while you're doing that, I'm playing for the Miami Freedom for $300 a game. And if I'm lucky, we win. It's a shutout. I could make as much as $500. Okay.
Go ahead.
My checks were bouncing.
Oh, wow.
And you're in Mexico getting $40,000 for a signing bonus and $120,000. And I am like walking away from the game saying, all right, I got to go to work.
But you know what's crazy though is, you think about it. Here was literally, guys, this is a defining moment for me. So I'm sitting in Torreon, Mexico, 1990. When was the World Cup? 94.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting in Torreon, Mexico in 94, playing in Mexican First Division, having a decent career. And Tony Miola, nice guy, but never played outside the United States, is starting a goal for the U.S. You talk about a kick in the nuts. That was like, at that point in time, like my whole career, my whole national team, regional team, whatever, up to that point, I'm like, yeah, we weren't the chosen ones back then. So.
That's why I was like hoping you'd get on here because, there's players like you out there that went out and did these things in places that, kids even today would still dream about. Most American kids today, you'd say, hey, here's your opportunity to go play in the Mexican Liga. And would you take it? And they'll snatch your arm off to take it,
Oh, yeah.
And yet there were these trailblazers like you out there that did this kind of stuff and nobody knows a thing about it. And like you said, there's, you're seeing these chosen ones out there and, everyone talks about them, but there were other keepers in the game besides the ones everybody knew that were out there accomplishing stuff. Greg, who was the guy that his name was Johnny Walker?
Yeah.
Yes. We want to get him on the show.
Yes. Played down in Chile.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When I heard about this guy, I was like, oh, I'd love to hear this guy's story, man. It's like, these are real leagues these guys are playing in. These aren't, it's not like I'm sorry, no insult, but the USL or something. These guys are, they're playing in these cauldrons of a fucking hornet's nest, basically. Like Alan's describing, he walks out in the first game and the home fans are chastising and throwing beer at him. So, I just think, those kinds of stories out there, it's like, again, Allan walks in and he's making 120 grand, gets a 40,000. He got more for a signing bonus than I got probably for my whole entire professional career. I got 500. I got 500 pounds a week at Newcastle for about 4 months, and then I come home and play, like I said, $300 to $500 a game, and so maybe I got 40 grand my whole professional career. And here's some Mexican. He shows up, he's in there 2 days, gets in a game, does well, and bam, someone drops 40 grand in his lap. And I'm just like, damn, why didn't I ever go to Mexico?
Because we didn't have the connections back then.
Yeah.
Both of you played in college at a time when there just wasn't a professional, there wasn't a real professional league to move on to in the United States, right? That's why you wound up over in England, Pat. Those were the contacts we had. We didn't really know. We knew there was soccer in Mexico and it was big time, but we didn't really know how to get there. How to get through the door. And I think Allan, you had a coach who was familiar with it, and he got you in the door.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So EV, two things I want to say here. You were the one who taught me how to play the box. So Allan, there's Grandpa right there. Okay? That's Grandpa taught me how to play the box. When Evie got home of me, I was a freaking shot stopper. That's what I was.
Shot stopper extraordinaire.
And I had a good 1v1 game, but aerial game, probably average at best. But by my senior year, it was I became that keeper. And then the other thing was, Evie, you told me this though. This was one of those things where it's like I always go back to Evie and say, "Damn it, you were right about this or that." Ben, you'll appreciate this because I was, it's like, yeah, you can tell me, but I know everything, right? Don't waste your breath on me, kind of thing. But one of the things he told me was, look, when you go to England, look at it as an experience. It's not the end all. He knew there was life beyond England because, my chances going were slim and none as it was in the first place. Okay. But no, I was that stupid kid. Hey, I'm going to just go and I'm so freaking good and the world's going to stop for me and that kind of thing. And then I was never the same keeper when I came back. Okay. But Allan saw me fresh out of Newcastle, and so, I think Allan got an appreciation to see, hey, I could be that good, kind of thing. And, but I was done really as a player. My best days were behind me because I was never the same player when I came back. So Allan, I lived vicariously through him saying, yeah, we went on to Mexico and did great. And I've always been really proud and just excited for him because, there was no expectation for me on that. I just knew the boy worked hard and that, when I heard about that, and then he flattered me by coming back after college and working with me. Allan, this was before you went to Mexico.
No.
When you came
I was getting ready for Olympic Festival.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Olympic festivals. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So
that was actually, Pat, believe it or not, that was actually my junior year.
Okay.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, I went down to train with Pat and he once again was so kind to beat the living, what out of me, which is great. And I could hang out by a pool and get a really great tan. But besides that, I mean, like I went to the Olympic Festival trials and killed it. I mean, like I was on top of my game, and it was, I mean, we trained for hell, I don't know, a month, something like that.
Yeah, you were down there 3 weeks a month.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. And so, yeah, that was amazing. And then, it's just, I mean, EV, even whenever I came to North Carolina, tried to get involved for a bit, I mean, it's just getting that mentality with, I mean, Craig, I go back to Craig Kinsey. I mean, he started my screwed up mentality, and then you guys kind of finished it. But, I mean, the stupid thing is today, I mean, at 54 years old, which is crazy. I mean, I literally, I should go, you know what, I'm going to go, trim the garden. I'm going to go pluck the grass, whatever. I mean, and Pat knows this, because I mean, poor Greg. Greg's been on some text, but like I am devastated because my opportunity right now is shoulder replacement or not play anymore. I'm like, wait a minute, time out. My goal is to be playing at 60 years old. I want to be playing over 30. Don't laugh. I mean, I'm serious. I mean,
no, if anybody can do it, you can.
Dude,
I can't imagine playing at 54. I can't. My last competitive game wasn't in pros. It was just I went to a Warren Wilson indoor tournament and played with my old teammates. Okay, played a weekend indoors. Okay, I wore every pad there was, or I looked like Eric Dickerson in goal. Right, right. And I drove home from Asheville to Durham, North Carolina. I pull into a gas station because I needed gas, and I couldn't get out of the car. Right? And I sat there until the poor bastard who was running the convenience store came out to see if I was okay. And I gave him $20 to fill up the tank, in addition to whatever the gas cost. I couldn't get out of the car. So somebody says they're playing at 54 years old. That's amazing.
Madness. That's madness.
Amazing.
No, but seriously, I mean, it's. I don't even know. Like I'm. That was a very hard day whenever I met with my surgeon. He's like, you got one of two options. He goes, shoulder replacement or live with what you got. And I'm like, well, that's not good. Because he's the one that did my shoulder replacement, or no, my shoulder surgery before with 7 screws and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not, I mean, because he's my age. And I'm like, you're 54, I'm 54. I'm not doing shoulder replacement because that's, I mean, then I can lift like 5 pounds for the first year and then 25 pounds after that. I'm like, I'm not doing it. And I mean, my better half, I can still, I mean, like we do cardio strength, 5 days a week workouts. And I mean, I'm probably fitter than I've been in 20 years. But I literally, this point in my life where you can never dive and make that upper 90 save again. That is what really messes my head.
See, it just amazes me that you continued to play, that you wanted to just keep going like that. I was that, I think, EV, your last competitive game that I saw, though it's not really competitive. Greg, you'll crack up at this. So you came and played in this Durham, North Carolina men's league game. I was on a team in the summer. And I played forward. I was the keeper that it was like, if you weren't paying me, I wasn't playing goal. I was playing in the field. That's how I was. And EV came and graciously stood in goal one game for us. And he took so many damn goal kicks or whatever it was. I don't know if you remember this, EV, but you couldn't strike a ball for 4 days.
No.
You were just like, oh, I took so many kicks. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Maven, when was the last time you played in goal competitively?
Bo, when he's talking to you.
No, I know. I'm sitting here thinking.
Yeah.
Wow. I would probably say my alumni game, probably maybe 15 years ago.
And that was
Oh,
probably
God.
once every 10 years kind of thing, right?
Well, no, it was every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's Allan. He's playing with 25-year-olds, and he's
playing every week.
Yeah, no, he's flying around
in training, and I'm like, you're freaking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's like you must love it.
I would send Pat pictures or text or whatever. I mean, like, literally, I'm like, hey, we just won the over 30, whatever. And he's like, you lost your effing mind. I'm like, all right. I'd send him something like, hey, I just had to shut her. I just pulled up her 90.
Yeah, he's all excited.
Yeah. I mean but hey.
So Allan, I want to know what it was like when you're playing. I mean, I think people sort of forget. I mean, you're playing Cruz Azul, Club America. Some powerhouse. What was that environment like? And again, I think people need to realize coming from 6 wins to double that. Did you have a lot of what was that transition? Because obviously you had some new players, but then you had some old players.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you could understand. And what was that, you mentioned the language barrier. What the heck was that like? Not only during, your team training and games, but when you had to go eat somewhere, was someone always there to help you make sure everything worked out?
No, so probably literally, I promise you, the first 6 months, so we would have, during training, there wasn't much going on. Because, training, you did fitness, you did training, and literally, the coach would be like, hey, don't let any goals in. So I'm like, okay, I got that. But then, during team meetings, it was literally probably, because I didn't know much, but there was one guy, a guy named Oscar Torres, and he was literally just, not the smartest guy in the world. But just he wanted to learn English, I wanted to learn Spanish, because, we had to help each other. And so we lived together for probably 4 months. And so we'd go to lunch every day after training, and we would be, look at the window, and I'd tell him, window, and he'd say, ventana. Or we'd look at the table, and we'd say mesa, and I'd say table. And so we kind of fed off each other. And it was really weird because I used to go to, because I was down there by myself, I had, and so I'd go to a lot of movies, and so they were in English or Spanish sometimes, or vice versa, and so I'd go to a lot of movies, so that's really the way I learned, the language. And it was funny because after about 6 months, I'm sitting in a team meeting one day, and most of the time it's like the coach would look at me after, whatever, and he's like, Allan, you're in goal, no goals. I'm like, coach, no worries. What do you say? And we would win some great games, and we'd lose some stupid games and all this stuff. But we're doing better, like you said, than we were before, the season before. But probably 6 months into the season, I'm sitting there in a meeting, and they were talking back and forth, and all of a sudden I'm like, understanding things. And so it was just amazing how, you go from knowing nothing, because literally I didn't know how to say goalkeeper back then in Spanish, and in their language, and all of a sudden I go to understand that and I understand everything. So it's really cool to see just the transition. But no, those guys, most of them, the average education for a back then, it's probably different now, but the average education back then for a professional in the Mexican First Division was 6th grade.
Yeah.
And it was, you're dealing with guys that, they might know how to read, might know how to write, but a lot of them back then, it was either literally, you had 2 courses in life. You either play professional soccer or you were a peasant. I mean, it was not. I mean, it was not a good course.
So what happened? The season's over. Your contract's over. Walk us through the next step there.
Yeah. So I mean, so my contract never ended because I mean I had an open-ended contract. So crazy thing. Last game of the season, you mentioned we were finished 15th or whatever you said. Finished like 19th, got 20th or whatever. You know, we barely made relegation. And I remember the last game I played with Santos in that stadium. I mean, we played a team called Morelia, and we had to win or tie to not go backwards. So I'll never forget. I mean, came down to a penalty kick, and I saved the freaking penalty kick. I'm like, man, this is like where I started. So, I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, during the summer, you know, they do all the, we're buying this guy, we're loaning this guy, all that stuff. And so they loaned me to Pumas. And the rest is history. I went to Pumas after that. You know, I think being tell you how it sounds, being a white guy playing in Mexico, and, you know, fortunately the fans love me. And they loaned me to Pumas. Campos at the time was playing with the national team because I was not good enough to play with our national team. So, you know, me and his boys were playing. You know, I went there for a couple of years and had Tuca Ferretti, which was an interesting character and an interesting coach. And so, I mean, I got home there, and then I just kind of rode off in the sunset. Finally, after a couple of years of dealing with him, I told my, you know, Santos still owned me at the time. I said, look, we got to do something different. I said, I'm not going to live in Mexico City. Was terrible back then. And I just said, hey, you own my letter, my carta. So we either have to figure something out, or I'm going to just go back and sit out and regain my letter.
So you had no work permit issues. None of that ever came up for you.
You know what? I mean, honestly, down there, I never had any issues at all. Zero.
Were there any other Americans that played while you were in Mexico?
Nope. The only other American that played before me was Clay Corman.
Yeah.
He was there. I think he played for Cruz Azul for a bit. He was like the start of everything. But no, the whole time I was there, I was dumb to like it.
Okay.
There we go.
That was it.
All right, EV, we're going to turn it back to headquarters to you.
Okay, well, I mean, we could go on and on here because, you know, this guy's been playing since he was 4 and he's 54, and holy mackerel, I mean, it's like 50 years of soccer stories. But we're gonna have to cut it short. But be sure to tune in for Allan Adams chapter 3 through 23 during the next episodes. Allan, thank you very much for joining us. It was great to see you again. Number one,
Yeah.
Number two, it was great to hear some of these stories because, you know, the funny thing is, you know, I knew you were playing in Mexico, but I didn't know, you know, again, you know, like Pat said, you were the sort of the lone gringo down there, and we didn't really know what was going on. And you know, it's interesting to hear. It's interesting to hear the sort of the different, as you said, the different cultures. You know, from what was going on at the time here in the United States, and you know, again, and as I said at the beginning of the show, there's pioneers, and then there's pioneers, and you know, you truly are a pioneer in United States and Mexico soccer history, and we appreciate you being on. And Pat, always great to hear, always great to see you, always great to hear your stories and your insights as well. And thank you for taking the time to jump on and surprise Allan and I only wish that, do you have a video someplace of you training Allan in November in Illinois?
Oh,
That would be a classic. That
No,
would be a classic.
he didn't
hey,
like it.
yeah, no kidding. Hey, I will tell you though. I mean, like of all my highlights in my whole life, whole career, to be 54 naturally, and I'm gonna figure a way to play till I'm 60. I don't know how. I may have an extra shoulder or shit. I don't know. But to be the white boy in Mexico and have your picture hanging in the trophy room of Santos Stadium, that's like I mean, I went down there in 19 because I had a customer there, and I got a private tour of the stadium, and my picture is in the trophy room because I thought it was bullshit. Like
Yeah.
my customer told me, "Oh, yeah, your picture's in the trophy room." I'm like, "You're full of shit." They're like, "No, seriously."
No,
And so I went down.
I want to let people know this is very true. In 2019, they honored 15 goalkeepers with a special jersey against Leon, and you might
Yeah.
want to, share with us what that meant, because that was, very obviously a very special honor for you.
No, no. I mean, thank you, Greg. I mean, no, it really is. I mean, yeah. So they did. They put the name of the top goalkeepers on the jerseys of field players during that game,
Oh wow. Wow.
and I was fortunate to be one of those people.
Cool.
But the thing that's even better for me personally is that my customer, there's a company called Kone Elevator that's in Torreon. So I mean, some of these guys that I know now, like they watch me playing as kids, and they're like, "We know you." Whenever I started doing this with them, but one of the guys, so after the game, so he went to the game, and I actually went down and I went to a game with him later, but he went to the game. And then he went to the auction of the jerseys after the game, and he bought that jersey for me and sent it to me.
Oh wow.
So I actually have that jersey in my. I mean, it's the most. I mean, it's very special.
That's cool.
That is cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, looking at the people that touch your life and the people that made a difference. I mean, naturally EVU, naturally PJ. I mean, shit. I'll talk to you till I die. But I mean, then Craig Kinsey got rest his soul. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just amazing to see. I mean, goalkeeping and soccer. Soccer's such an amazing thing. I mean, I'm sitting in the grocery store and I'm talking to some kid that has a Cruz Azul jersey, whatever jersey. Of course, my better half, she's like, "Shut up, don't talk to me." And I'm like, "No, it's soccer." But no, I mean, I appreciate you guys letting me on here. I can go on for. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. And truly a story of the road less traveled.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Always got to get your Robert Frost plug in there somehow. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks very much. Thanks to all the listeners. This was again. We'll have Allan back on. For I don't know, the next 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it takes to tell his story. And before we go, let me ask Pat. Pat, give us a little thumbnail sketch on white glove goalkeeping.
Oh, white glove goalkeeping is, I guess I'm going to call it my passion project. So Maven, sorry everybody, I call Greg Maven because Greg knows everything.
That's true.
No, it's not.
And Greg, I appreciate that you have been looking out for me from the time we've met. Greg's always trying to find me the right gig, the right fit, this, that, the other. But Greg, I have found it. Okay. White glove goalkeeping, basically I've gone back to what I did with Allan. I'm looking for kids that want it, and I'm training them. I'm mentoring them. I'm being EV. I'm really looking at it, and I'm loving every minute of it. And I do have a website. Evie and Allan are on there with some fantastic testimonials for me. It's called Keep It Out of the .net. Keep it out of the net, just .net. Just trying to play on words, obviously. And, that'll give you some info on it. But, man, I'm loving it. And I'll finish with this. So it started with a kid that I have here where I live in Florida. I started training him in February, just a kid. They're, salt of the earth family. And the kid just works his ass off. And, dad, they're not a wealthy family. Right? It's like, no problem. Listen, I'll just train you. I just want to train you. I need to do something like this. So at the time I thought, I feel good about myself. Kind of like you go and you pick up, you get the dog from the animal shelter and you're doing your good deed kind of thing. Okay. So I started training another girl as well, who's very similar cut of the same cloth. Like, I'll do you this favor. But dude, guys, 3 weeks into this, 2 weeks into this, I loved it. And so I became literally that bumper sticker cliche where it was like, who's saving who here? And the light came on. The light came on. It's like, this is what I'm meant to do. I am now going to spend the rest of my days training keepers, kids that want it, good kids that are just really looking for an opportunity. Because you guys all know we are the most underappreciated, underserved position in sports. Really, there's not, 1 night a week, 2 nights a week goalkeeper training. I'm sorry, that's just not enough to be a good goalkeeper in this day and age, especially. So I've set out to fill in those voids, which are huge, these chasms of training deficiencies. And so that's what I'm up to, man. That's what white glove goalkeeping is. And it's called white glove because I don't want a lot of keepers. I want, 10, 15, 20 keepers, no more, that these kids are driven. And then the dream is to actually open a facility where I have a full-time residential goalkeeper-only school. And then those kids will go off and play in the local club, but they're going to train. They're going to train like pros in an academy. Okay. And so when I get that thing open, of course you'll know about it. So anyway.
Hey, do me a favor though.
And Allan's on staff. Evie's on staff. Maven, you still got some coaching in you. You're going to be on my staff.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark Dodd's in, Evie.
Oh,
okay.
Good.
Daughter said he's coming, so we're going to get the band back together.
Get the band back together. And,
That's
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
And just about the time you get your facility, Pat, will be the time you get your hip replaced. That's the way it works. So, from hitting 3,000 balls a day. So
I got to admit, as I was sitting here and the way I'm sitting right now, I had to adjust because my freaking hip was killing me.
Hey,
like, let me squirm a little. Oh, okay.
Pat.
Yep.
I need one favor.
Okay.
Can you do me one thing?
Sure.
Teach these freaking kids how to catch the
I do.
freaking ball.
Ooh, that's a whole nother subject right there, baby.
I do.
Dude, that wears me out watching. I mean, even EPL keepers. I mean, nobody knows how to catch the ball anymore. Nobody knows how to dominate the box anymore. I mean, literally, I'm 54 years old. I watch some of these keepers. I'm like, you big weenie.
Yeah.
My God. Catch the ball, quit punching, quit parrying, and go dominate your box. Oh,
Allan, I'm treating these kids just like I treated you.
Seriously. There you go. That'll do it. Well, here's something. I've said this a million times. You guys have heard me say it, right? Everybody's enamored with the sidewinder, right? Everybody, I got to be able to hit a sidewinder, right? And you know what you need for a sidewinder? You know what's the first thing you need?
Be able to lock your ankle.
The ball. You need the ball, right? Because you can't do a sidewinder for a goal kick.
From a corner.
Yeah, you can't. You have to be able to catch the ball. You have to have the ball first, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't catch
Yeah.
the ball, you can't do a sidewinder,
No,
except in training.
That's
it wears me out watching people nowadays.
Yeah, it's a lost art, and I don't get it. But that's we'll have to have everybody back in for a panel discussion on that.
sure.
So, all right, fellas. Well, thank you for your time, everybody. Be safe, be healthy. Ryan, thank you very much for doing the producing for us. We'd be lost without you. We'll see you next time. Love you, boys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See ya. Good night.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Three Old Goalies podcast. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Three Old Goalies can also be found on Instagram and Twitter, X. Can't get enough? Check us out online at threeoldgoalies.com. Thanks again for joining us on the Three Old Goalies.